You're listening to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, and this is episode number 87. Hi, friends. I'm Curtis J.Washington. And look, the purpose of this podcast is simple. We are constantly being bombarded with messages like, we could be happy if only we had a particular thing, or we could be successful if only we made X amount of dollars, or we could be at peace if only so-and-so loved me. These messages are not only disempowering, but also they are simply not true. This is because it's not about where you are and where you want to be. It's about who you are right now and who you wish to become. Once you know what the ideal you looks like, then you will automatically start becoming aware of what steps you can take right now to move in the right direction. And the goal of this podcast is to help you look within and discover all the love, all of the beauty, and all of the unlimited potential that you already possess, and for you to set it free for you and for the world to see. Welcome to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, where we explore practical and actionable steps that you can take to help you manifest the greatness that you already possess deep inside. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Cassandra Ciarallo, and she is an enchantment coach and embodiment facilitator. And she helps women feel empowered to express their most present, embodied, and authentic selves. She helps them reconnect to their bodies, reignite their passions, and rewire their thoughts, feelings, and energy. As an entrepreneur for almost a decade, she brings her experience as an agent of change to help others step into the life that they've always dreamed of, using the tools and practice that have transformed her own relationship to self. She specializes in leading with the wisdom of the body from her somatic studies in the art of presence and soul-based healing with Tao Healing Hands. Cassandra, welcome to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast.
Oh, thank you, Curtis. It's my pleasure. Thanks for that lovely introduction.
Well, so glad that you could join us today, and so much wonderful things that I know we're going to cover today about your practice and all the amazing things that you're doing to help people, to help women. And I just wanted to kind of take a step back, though, and just talk a little bit about how you decided to become an enchantment coach and embodiment facilitator. And of course, what is that as well? We'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Absolutely. Yeah. So I feel like the enchantment came and continues to come in my life, which is why I use that term to differentiate myself in the world of coaching. And to me, it's sort of this continuous development of self, continuous reconnection to me, my desires, my body, and really stepping into the path that lights me up. And I was actually almost going to say scares me because I feel like the path that lights us up is one that is sort of next to and lies really close to fear. Yeah. And so my journey has been continuously like pushing that boundary of the things that I want to call in and really stepping into that and building belief in myself in order to do so. And that's really what I help women do, because I see a lot of women in the space of shoulding themselves, right? Playing really small because they're listening to the world outside of them. They're listening to society's beliefs, their parents' beliefs, their friends' beliefs, and it's not really what they truly want. And I think that that's where I was in a lot of ways too. So I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. I was running another business in the world of sustainability and fashion. And I was like so excited and so motivated to be building this fashion company that was rooted in sustainability, was rooted with these values of people and planet over profit. But I feel like the journey of entrepreneurship, is so up and down. And in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I sort of just threw myself into it because I happened to meet these amazing artisans in Bali that were through my travels and making these goods from recycled tires. And I just had this moment of inspiration to, collaborate and be part of this movement for recycled fashion, recycled accessories. And yeah, so I really jumped into it, not really knowing. I had studied business. I definitely was looking and seeking for something entrepreneurial to start. So it kind of matched my energy and my desires. But yeah, there were just such high highs and such low lows because I think I was constantly looking outside of myself for all the answers and for this validation, right? If I was doing well financially, I felt really good about myself. And when I wasn't, I would feel really bad about myself and I would be stuck in what I call like gloomy FM. So I kind of talk about and teach that there's these different frequencies like radio stations we can be tuned to, right? And gloomy FM is one of them, and reality FM, and then there's enchanted FM. But gloomy FM is kind of this woe is me, what am I doing here? Why is this happening? And sort of like victimizing myself, but also just feeling really low about when things weren't going well, that it was me. And I had a really hard time picking myself back up from the times that were low. And I feel like they really got to me. Right. And so building that like core foundation of my self-belief wasn't super strong at the time. And yeah, so that because of that led me to burning out. I would say the first couple of times it was just really my body telling me like, okay, enough is enough. You need to slow down. And it was like genuinely like deplete, like to this place of depletion where I just couldn't continue. And then the third time it happened, I got sick, like, and it took me out for a couple of weeks and I was really confused about my path. I'm like, this isn't why I became an entrepreneur. And I knew I wanted to do things differently, but I didn't know what at the time. I knew I wanted my business to change. I didn't know what direction. And so I was just kind of holding the desires of change. And soon enough, I met my embodiment teacher, where that sort of like led me on a new journey. I was exploring other avenues within the business of like maybe developing new offerings, and maybe they would be service-based. It was like I knew in my heart there was a service-based offering I wanted to share with the world, but I didn't know what. And so when this embodiment work came into my world, it just felt so resonant within me. Like my body was saying like, this is the next thing, but it wasn't even the next thing that I knew I was going to be teaching or facilitating. It was more like the knowing that this is the medicine that I need for myself right now. And so that's kind of what led me on the journey. And I studied for about 6 months before I invested then in an 18-month program. And then that was just sort of like life-changing, I have to say, right? It again was like my soul needs this work for myself. And I continue to see change and transformation in very small ways. Like I don't like to share this, and this is my own belief, that our quantum leaps aren't this like giant, massive breakthrough that happens in one moment in time, but it's like the result of very small intentional actions over and over and over again. And that's kind of just what it was for me. These very small moments that kept showing me like, oh, I'm responding differently in this relationship. Oh, I'm responding differently to myself. Oh, I'm being more gentle here. And those micro moments, like over and over and over again, built the belief that, oh, this is the new path for me. Like, this is what I want to share with the world. I want more women to feel this level of confidence moving towards the things that they want. And yeah, and so that's where enchantment came from. And that's sort of my story with embodiment work. And so the art of presence is built with 44 different practices in this modality. And it's really special, just a number of different ways to help come back to the body, calm the nervous system, have practical tools to move from this like fight or flight response to something that, I mean, initially, taking time to move into the rest and digest or the parasympathetic, but the body not initially just like reacting so quickly. And I continue to see that in my own life because I'm on the journey with my clients, just a few steps ahead of them, right? And the journey towards enchantment is ever continuing and ever evolving. And I think that it's really built a really solid foundation for the way that I'm showing up in the world. And that excites me to keep moving on it, right? I like to say I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm like in this enchanted place right now. And there's this end goal or end place that we get to, right? It's, as you know, Curtis, just this continuous, I feel like it's this continual strengthening of the self, just like this really strong rooted behavior that continues to shape the way we show up in life and respond to things differently. So yeah, that's my story in a nutshell and what enchantment means.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. And it's really, I love what you're saying about how it's a process. And I
Mhm.
totally agree. All of these things, even the going from, the sustainable, and the entrepreneur, the work that you were doing, with the jewelry and everything, and
Mhm.
just try the service, what you were trying to accomplish
Mm.
there, and that whole process, right, of learning about what moves you, what lights you up inside, where do you
Mm.
find meaningful work, where do you find value, what's aligning with kind of your core beliefs, and it's this whole, like you said, it's this never ending process. And I love that because you start with what you think you want, and there's always little bits and pieces that are going to be consistent, and it's kind of that constant
Mm.
process, like you're saying, kind of building on that and a little bit at a time. And if someone from the outside is looking at entrepreneur to enchantment coach and embodiment facilitator, I don't understand, how do those connect? But you as a person, and knowing your journey and knowing what you were inside looking to find out more about yourself
Right.
and how you wanted to grow, it makes perfect sense. And
Mm.
exactly like you were saying about the should, the society saying this is what success looks like, this is what you're supposed to do, this is the path that's considered the path to success, and you should do it this way. And that can be so, like you said, the I love it, gloomy FM, right? You think you're not
Mm.
meeting these expectations of others when you have your own expectations of yourself, and they're not
Right.
meshing well. So I just love that. I love that. And so this process, you mentioned it's a process. And one of the things that I also found really insightful about what you said is that you became an enchantment coach and embodiment facilitator because that's what felt right for you. And you're still on the journey. And I
Mhm.
think that's the importance of what you're saying there is how you're on this journey with your clients, you're on this journey with these other people that you're serving. I think that sometimes we have this fear, this imposter syndrome, right? Like we're trying to be something that we're not. In cases like this, where it's you're trying to become a better version of yourself, and you're trying to help others. Then you mentioned fear. There's that fear that am I doing it right? Am I helping, to the best of my ability? Am I the right person for this? Do I know enough to help others? And I was
Mm,
wondering if maybe you could perhaps expand upon that process for yourself, because it sounds like it's energizing, but at the same time, it's constantly challenging you to continue to reach higher and to do more, and to go inside to help, to figure out what else you can leverage to help others.
totally. Yeah. So, I mean, specifically to talk to the fear, there's like a few different kinds of fear to be aware of. And I'll just briefly speak to the things that, I believe. There's primal fear, right? Where we can very well be in danger. Something in our surroundings is what our instinct is telling us, okay, we are in danger right now, right? So there's that type of fear. And then there's fear as a projected thought,
Mm.
which I think can keep a lot of people small, right? Knowing when our mind is going into that place of worry or fear in the future and we're not living in the present, and we're continuously thinking and feeling in these loops of worry and anxiety of what might be because we're scared of something in the future happening, right? But that's simply the mind taking us out of the moment, and it's a projection of what might happen. And then there's also, right, well, that kind of ties into the fear of the emotional guidance system, where we have like the scale of emotions, and fear is one of the ones at the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, doubt, depression. And then as each emotion, as we shift out into different emotions, right, we raise up the scale of the emotional guidance scale. And yeah, so fear is like right there on the bottom.
Yeah.
And so what's important to know about that is that we're not trying to get all the way to joy, which would be at the top, right? Is we're just trying to move up slowly up the scale to move ourselves out of something that might feel really overwhelming or scary, or like we can get, maybe it's the imposter syndrome that keeps us there in the fear, like you touched on that. Oh, who the heck wants to listen to me? I'm not good enough for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so what's important there is to really connect to a better feeling thought, or do something that might shift you a little bit out of that, like taking a sort of action that can move us one step up the scale, which is not necessarily anything close to joy or excitement, but it's actually, might be anger, might be
Mm-hmm.
just one little step up.
Yeah, that's progress, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's progress. And I think, again, that's where the mind can come in and tell us, oh, well, it's not good enough because you're not feeling this much better. But what's important here, and I guess what's sort of been supportive on my journey, is that, like, what's just one little micro step, and remembering that we're moving, right?
Right.
And it might take many weeks or many months to move up in the beginning. But what I've seen in my own experience is that then it can happen in days, and then it can happen in hours, and then it can happen in minutes. And so we're moving up the emotional guidance scale up and down all the time, because we're human and we're going to go through all the range of the emotions. And what I really help people do, and what I've learned to do with myself, is to allow myself the space to feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and to give space to whatever's arising, because moving towards the things we want is and can be so fucking scary,
Yes.
right? Like, you're putting yourself out there, you're taking risks, you're being seen. And then there's all the things after we take the action, where the mind usually goes, well, you could have done this better. And
Yeah.
then, oh, well, you missed doing this, right? The perfectionism side kind of comes in.
Right.
after. And so there's all these parts that are so present. But I think the important thing is how we relate to each one of those parts as they're arising. Like, do we just want to push them away and numb and not feel the fear, or not feel the perfectionism part that also just wants us to be really great at what we're doing? But like, how do we acknowledge and relate to those parts? So that's a lot of my teaching too, is really noticing what's arising in the body at a physical level, on an emotional level, on an energetic level. Like, what are we feeling here? And can we start to articulate and identify like what that feeling really is? Because sometimes we might even think it's fear, maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting better at discerning what's arising. And then, because from there, when we can have a better understanding of what it is, there's that difference in like the fear of, or the knowing in the body of, this might just not be right for me to move forward in, versus I'm really afraid to move towards the things that I've really wanted for my whole life. And I'm just really afraid that it might not work out, or that people are going to say things about me or judge me. Right. So there's like a discernment in what's actually arising. And that's what I help with my clients. And it's kind of the journey I've been doing with myself, so that we can better understand what the body is saying. And then we have the capacity to make decisions around what is best for you in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love what you were saying about the different levels of fear too. And,
Mm.
starting with that primal fear, I mean, this is like, and I can't wait to get into this discussion a little bit more, but
Uh-huh.
um, this is, I mean, there's a lot of confusion around that feeling, right? Because I think
Right.
uh, we're just, I mean, it's something that we've had
Right.
for, of course, from ancient times, right? To, of course, take care of ourselves when we're in danger. But I think now that fear comes up when it's not really valid because, we could think
Mm.
that it's a life or death situation when we're really talking about, well, so and so may not talk to us for a week if we say this, or we
Right.
may
Right.
lose some money if we do this. But it's like
Right.
fight or flight, life or death. So
Yeah.
and, like you were saying about just kind of working your way up the ladder, I think that's so true. And then of course when you're at that most basic level of fear, like you were saying as well, you lose the capacity to really think and respond because you're in that react mode, and it's you can't see, right? You're blinded. You can't
Right.
really see the opportunities. You don't really know what is out there and what options exist if you're stuck in that lowest, most primal level of fear.
Mm.
And yeah, I was just curious, how do you help people kind of discern between that? Because it seems like a lot of people, we talk about taking a leap of faith or becoming, going out and doing something new that may be challenging, or that, of course, there may be some anxiety and some fear around it, but getting them to see that you're not going to die, you're not going to,
Mm-hmm.
this is not life or death. Let's kind of recalibrate what kind of fear this is so we can actually work with it a little bit. I was just curious if you could share how you're helping people kind of move up that scale a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So I'll share briefly like a process that I take my clients through and that I teach. And I'll obviously articulate it in basic form, and it can go in a number of different ways when I do work with a client, just based on what might arise. So just to preface for that, but the first thing is really noticing what discomfort is arising in the body, like stopping what you're doing and letting yourself take a breath and identify, like, where is this coming up in my body? So deep breathing and just noticing where that might come up. For me, a lot of my fear resides in my gut. So I usually feel a lot here, or even if I'm just anxious. So it's like, okay, first one is notice. It's the net process. So the N is notice. So we're going to notice where it's arising in the body. And then the second one is embrace. So how can we open the body up to relaxation while we're feeling discomfort? And it's almost like you're opening up the door to a friend, right? Because usually the conditioning is like, run away, don't want you here. Let's find something that's going to make me feel better, which is maybe distracting on the phone or grabbing a drink or just, something that's maybe the habit that is not necessarily the best way to relate to what's arising in the body. So seeking something that's feel good to not feel the bad. But I said this jokingly to a friend, it's like feel bad now, feel good later. But it's really about, we are seeking these short-term pleasure. So that like feel good, get you out of the bad feeling is simply not serving you in the future. And so what's kind of like the delayed gratification, right? So if we can really like be with the discomfort, there will be that feel good, not right now, but like in a little bit. So opening the doors up to befriending this part. And that's going to look a little different for everybody. And sort of when we start to explore how that feels, but it's like, you can imagine, what would it feel like to say like, hello, friend, I'm welcoming you in, and really acknowledging that part. So different words of affirmation or words of acknowledgement, like I see you, I love you, I honor you, thank you for being here. Right. And then even first of all, just acknowledging it and being with it is really all you need to do. And then if it's really like not shifting or transforming just from witnessing it, then we can sort of ask for more information. Like, is there something you want to tell me? Is there something that I need to know? Right. Starting to sort of be friends with this discomfort. And, it might become clear what emotion it is, or maybe there's a memory, or maybe there's something that comes up from that. And we start to get some information about what this part is, what this feeling is, what's there, why it might be there. But we don't always need to know the why. It's really just holding space for what's there. So that's the embrace part. And then the T is transform. And what I found with myself of doing this over and over is that the transform can often happen on its own, just when we're holding space for that part. We give it space, we witness it, we embrace it as a friend, and then it naturally starts to move and shift. And usually I've found for myself, when I can identify what it is, oh, wow, this is emptiness, or, oh, wow, this is fear, or whatever it is, like it all, once I've identified what it is, it kind of just like starts moving. So then the energy starts shifting. But maybe not, right? Sometimes I've said the transform is really about asking, what do I need right now? And then I usually get information. Okay, I need to go out for a walk. Okay, I really need to journal about what's just happened right now. Okay, I need to shake my body and dance and go crazy, like whatever it is. I need to go hug a tree. I need to call a friend. I need to like release this verbally right now with myself, or play my guitar or something. So what do I need right now will facilitate just that energy movement, right? Moving up the emotional guidance scale. It's going to support whatever's going on in the physical body to start to move and transform.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was going to say one more thing on that. And not putting pressure on it, like needing to transform it, but just really allowing for that spaciousness as well to be there with it and let what needs to arise. Um, yeah, that's a really simple process that works really well for me and what I teach a lot of my clients and what I see great feedback on, when we can start to really connect with those parts that are ones that we don't often want to look at.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. Well said. And I
Mm.
couldn't agree more. Yeah, I have an episode. So much of what you said just resonates so much, I think, with not only the way that I feel, but the process that I try to go through with fear myself. And I think what
Mm.
you're saying, it's so effective. I actually have an episode on the podcast called "Embrace,
Mm-hmm.
Don't Erase Your Fears." And it talks
Mm,
a
I
lot
love
about what you're saying.
that.
And what you're saying is so powerful because that
Mm.
whole idea of inviting fear in instead of trying to, like you were saying, find a distraction is like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to know. I want to get away from this feeling. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
turning to that, okay, this is a feeling of discomfort. There's fear. I feel it kind of coming up inside. Let's figure out what that could mean or where that may be coming from. And one of the things
Yeah.
that I like to try to remind myself is that fear oftentimes is trying to protect you. Usually it's trying to protect you. Wants to be
Right.
heard, right? It's like, hey, stop ignoring me. I'm trying to tell you
Yeah.
something. But if we try
Yeah.
to constantly run away from it, we never get the message, and we just think that, oh, it must be bad. It must be bad. We must stay away from whatever I'm afraid of. When, like you were saying, if you take the time to invite fear in and try to get a better understanding of where it's coming from and what it may be trying to say to you, what it may be trying to protect you from, and then kind of processing that a little bit, then it gets a lot less scary, right? Because then it's like, oh,
Totally.
now I get it. I can see where this fear is coming from. I can understand what it's trying to protect me from, and now I can see, if it's something that is fear is something that I should avoid, or is something I need to be
Yeah.
aware of in my process. Which I'm going to
Totally.
move forward. I'm going to be aware of it, but I'm going to keep going. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's where I feel like we can stop ourselves in our tracks, right?
yeah,
It's like, oh no, fear, don't do that. And I'll give an example. It was like the first time earlier this year, I was asked, or actually I applied to speak at a conference that we had here at the yoga show in Toronto. It was like for so long, so many months, I was saying, I want to be more in the speaking world. I want to step into this. And then when this big opportunity came, it was like, so much fear in my body. I can't even tell you. I was like, holy shit. Am I really going to do it? I don't know. This is crazy. And so, but it's like when we move towards the things we want, that is going to arrive. It's going to be like ding, 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 right? Like intensity, the intensity of what I was feeling in my body. And there were two ways I could respond. I could have ran away, right? I know there was a part of me that was like, I don't really need to do this. This isn't the right time, right? The logical mind tries to come in and rationalize all the reasons why it would be right to just walk away from this and that I didn't need to do it. And
right,
then when I really sat with myself, it was like, okay, this is what I really have been wanting and been talking about for months. And now I have this opportunity. I can't run in the opposite direction. Like I
right,
can't let this opportunity go. But it was getting really weird. Like, do I really want this? And it became so clear that it's because I really want it that there's so much fear, because I'm like, holy shit, am I actually going to do this? I'm going to speak in
yeah,
front of this many people. Oh my God, this is going to happen. What? So it's that discernment exactly of, okay, it might even show up as like perceived danger because it's just so scary to move towards what we want, but it's not real danger. It's that projection of thought, right? Where we can get all up in the head about this being something that's so scary, but that sort of feeling in the body, like also transformed into this thrill and excitement towards it once I continued to take the next step. And when I got really clear about like, this is what I want, and it's okay, and I can be with you, and and sort of taking that control. So that's what I think when we open ourselves up to fear as our friend and we move towards it, just like you were saying, and we don't run away, that we shift like who's in the driver's seat. So our real self starts to lead, and then fear is still with us, but they're in the back seat of the car.
Right.
And not totally taking over and then bringing us in a new direction.
Right, right. That is so true. Yeah, and
Hmm.
fear is along for the ride, right? Got the
Along for
seatbelt
the
on, he's
ride.
back
Yeah.
there, Yep, I know you're there. We're all good, but we're still driving the car in the direction that's where
Yeah.
we need to go. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's fantastic. So, and then just that
And
whole process of that you had mentioned the being in touch with your body, that process of understanding where the feeling is coming from. And it
right.
sounds like that you mentioned your throat for you personally and your gut.
Hmm.
So it sounds like is there a pattern? Like is this tuning in process and kind of becoming more connected with your body through this process of understanding and tuning in, is it the case that you should eventually, or you maybe eventually be able to kind of discern between where the feeling is coming from to kind of help dissect what type of fear it might be, or what type of emotion it really might be underneath?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
having a better connection with what the feeling is, being able to pinpoint it quicker, being able to understand that it's there. Like sometimes now, when I'm with a lot of people, a certain emotion might arise, but in the moment now, I could just be like, hey, I see you. I love you. I'm with you. And I'm just with it. And I can be like in a large crowd or a large space. Whereas before it would be like, what the hell is going on? I don't even know. I just want to
Right.
kind of run away or isolate or, right. But now because I'm so much more connected with it,
Yeah.
I can identify it. I can be with it in situations that might normally have been super uncomfortable because there's lots of
Right.
people around. Um, and then it can calm and soften on its own, and I'll just say like, hey, it's okay here, we're safe.
Yeah.
Or like, I'll come back to you later and I'm gonna, we'll be okay, let's revisit this later, if it's again something I can't really like go into and process in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's that like connection to it that is embracing it but acknowledging it, that really allows for it, the body to soften and relax, right? Because that's where there's an understanding.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's like we can stay tense, and
Mhm.
depending on where we are, it's might get messy, right? There's opportunity for just the how things might play out to be very different than when we are really connected to what's arising in the body in the moment and have a different response to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
because
that answer your question?
yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, it's kind of that it's like that, it's like frenetic energy kind of bouncing all around, and
Right.
it's just it's kind of out of control. It's out of the box, it's out of the cage, and you gotta just,
Mm,
if you're able to identify it and to be with it, and acknowledge it for what it is, but at the same time not let it kind of run rampant and not let it kind of take over the current uh, frequency that you're trying to resonate with, and the work that you're
yeah,
trying to do at the time, that can make all the difference. So yeah, no,
totally.
Yeah.
And it could be with fear, but it could be with a whole slew of other emotions, right? That might be
Right.
arising in the moment. So this works with everything,
Yeah.
acknowledging it, witnessing it, being its friend, and just saying, "Hey, I'll come right back." It's like we're talking to our inner children, like an inner
Yeah.
child within us, right? Because whatever's arising is a trigger, probably from a past, if it's something that's like really deep.
Right.
And even if it's not, and it's just something in the moment that is, there's an emotional response in the body, there's a way to like soften that,
Mhm.
so that you said, yeah, it's not as like frenetic, so that we're not in the fight or flight, so that we can soothe ourselves in the moment. And I think that that's so important, especially in the world we're living in, because there's so many different things that in a day, right, can just cause us to be triggered, to react in a certain way. And we want to continue to condition the body to not react, but we're responding. And so when we can do that, we're giving the body like a little bit of space. There's time for us to breathe. There's time
Mm.
for the body to show up differently. And yeah, it's like just that space that we can create with that part within us allows for so much space in how we can articulate something or really like respond differently in life.
Yeah, that time is so important too. I totally agree because the when you're so caught up in the moment and then you're trying to get things done and you're in productivity mode, it can be so easy just to want things to go away, you know. It's just like,
Right.
and that time, that breath, that as you called it, giving space, right, for that
Mm.
for that the process to slow down just enough for you to see that there's not just a reaction that can apply here. There are options. There's something that you can
Mm.
articulate here. There's more of your mental faculty that you can empower and you can incorporate into your
Right.
response, but you gotta slow things down to give yourself a chance
Yes.
to see it, right? To incorporate that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Mm.
I think that is so awesome. Cassandra, I'm just I love what you're doing. I think that everything that you're saying, it's so important and it becomes more and more so each day with how easy it is to become distracted. It only gets easier because the social media and all these other inputs are getting better and better at breaking our attention, right? They're getting better and better,
Mm.
pulling us into things and pulling us away from that time that we really need to process and to tune into what is really going on within us and understand what will really move us forward as an individual to become better tomorrow than we are today. And like you said, it's a
Mm.
process, and I love that. And I want to make sure everyone knows, how do they find you? Where's the best place to go to find out all the wonderful things you're doing and to learn more about everything that you're teaching in your enchantment coach and embodiment facilitator services that you offer?
Sure, yeah. So I'm very active on Instagram. I love Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, I'm at Coaching with Cass, and I usually share everything I'm up to there. But you can also check me out on my website, coachingwithcass.com, and I share the different ways that I work with people. I host a group program, which is a really beautiful way for women to come together and learn a lot of these embodiment practices that can support you on your life's journey or your journey of enchantment. I also work one on one, and yeah, I do free monthly live webinars. So if you check out either my Instagram page or my website, you'll see what's up next. And it's a great opportunity to come have an experience. I'm really about, this human connection right now. I know that these are virtual, but for you to learn and leave with a really tangible tool. So I do a teaching, And it's very sort of interactive where we can share and you can maybe even receive some live coaching and have an opportunity to be in community and like receive this wisdom and have a tool on your journey that can really support you. So would love to stay in touch and connected at Coaching with Cass all over the web. And feel free to send me a message. And thank you, Curtis. This has been an awesome chat. I'm like, where's the time gone? How are we already up? Like I'm sure you and I could chat for hours on end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what you said about slowing down is so important. So I'd love to just kind of give that as the last little word. Anything you can do to slow things down is really important, because that's the way we get better at listening to what's going on inside of us as well. So, just giving yourself a few minutes within different chunks of your day to take some deep breaths and really feel your feet on the ground. It's a great way to just shift your attention into the body versus focused on everything that you have to do and all the to-do lists and all the things that keep us really future focused or out of the present. But keep, just in small moments, redirect your attention to your body and feel yourself sitting, feel yourself standing, feel yourself walking. And these are really small micro moments where you can slow things down. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that's wonderful advice. I usually end the podcast with a challenge, asking the guests to provide something that they think would be the best for our listeners and viewers to take in and to incorporate into their lives today. But I think what you just said, that was it.
I knew you were going to ask it, so I was just like a step ahead of you, I guess.
The resonance is definitely in effect, right? No?
Totally. I love it. But that's definitely, I would say that's my tip. Anything you can do to redirect your attention inside will continue to train your mind and train your sensitivity in the body to listening. Because also one challenge that we continue to see in life is when we are using all these things to distract, when we come home inside of us, it's like, I don't even know what I feel, or I don't even feel very much, right? In the beginning of my embodiment journey, I was like, I don't feel anything. So it's continuing to build our sensitivity to not externally thinking, but internally feeling. And we build that muscle moment by moment by moment, the more we redirect our attention and focus to ourselves, not all the things outside of ourselves. So that's my little last tip.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And we'll be sure to have all of your information so everyone knows how to contact you and to follow you and to get involved in your coaching sessions and those free webinars. My goodness, that sounds like such a great free resource. So that'll all be in the podcast summary notes for everyone as well. And thank you again, Curtis. Cass. This has been so much fun. And yes, where did the time go, right? We're going to have a part two, because I'm sure we can
part two for sure. Awesome. Thank you again for all of this.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Cass. This was fantastic. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. If you liked what we've explored on this episode, then you'll love the Manifest Your Greatness coaching program. The Manifest Your Greatness coaching program is uniquely tailored to help support you on your journey to become the absolute best version of yourself. So if you are committed to taking the steps required to significantly and permanently level up in any area of your life, visit manifestyourgreatness.com/contact. Again, that's manifestyourgreatness.com/contact and schedule your free consultation call today. Talk soon.